Welcome back, Filmaholics. My name is Kyle Kenrick, and in this channel you find anything and everything filmmaking. Now, if you guys want more of that, consider subscribing, but let's go on with the video. So today what we're discussing is going to be the age-old question, is 4K worth it? Basically, we live in a world now where anyone and everyone has a 4K phone, GoPro, or something where they can film in 4K. But does that mean it's really good, or should you still go with 1080p? So we're gonna tackle these with two different segments. One being good and bad 4K, and two being bad 4K versus good 1080p. So the first one, good and bad 4K, what does that actually mean? Well, the quality of your 4K is actually decided by your camera specs, specifically the bit rate that you're gonna be filming it. The best way to think about it is lower bit rate equals higher compression equals lower quality. For example, you get 4K from this camera, which is the Sony a7S III, and then you can get 4K from your phone, and that is also 4K, but it's also a smaller sensor, smaller phone, smaller everything. And what this means, 4K from your phone cannot compare at all to the 4K that you can get from, well, a Sony a7S III like I'm using right now. Another big pitfall when it comes to recording in 4K, but you're also recording in lower bitrate, is the fact that you won't be able to color grade it as much. It's just not enough information there compared to something with a higher bitrate. Your colors will just go hella wild. But to show this, let's go ahead and go on to the examples. And now we're back and we're here to talk about the next segment, and that's going to be bad 4K versus good 1080p, which is actually better. The thing I'm recording on right now is a Sony a7S III, and it's capable of 1080p at 10-bit 422 at 222 megabits per second. This is a Pixel 3 XL. This thing can record in 4K 8-bit at 48 megabits per second. And as you know from the last segment, your bitrate decides quality. So let's see this in action. And now you're done with the examples, and we are back for Kyle's conclusions. So is 4K worth it? That's what we're here to answer. But first thing I want to say is that I'm not trying to diss on 4K from phones or anything else like that. I love the fact that we have 4K literally everywhere we can, well, access. It's amazing and it looks amazing. But that being said, it cannot beat a camera because, well, a camera is meant to be used as a camera versus a phone when it's meant to be used mainly as a phone and then also having a great camera in it. It's just not the same. There's also another big factor in there when you can use 1080p versus that 4K, because again, what we learned is that the bitrate can be, well, quality deciding. Also, it might be harder for your computer to handle 4K because when I first tried to use 4K on my other desktop, it basically exploded. But when I use 1080p on there, it's smooth and it's easy to use. So it also depends on your price range. If you can afford a laptop or a computer that can handle 4K, then go for it. But if you can't, I would stick with 1080p because you could upscale that to 4K later. And I mentioned this because I upscaled my footage from 1080p to 4K in this video, and I bet it looked amazing, especially since YouTube compresses it anyway. So with all that said, there's not really a perfect answer to this question. The best thing to do is find your budget and then decide on which ones you want to use, because in a way, like, yeah, maybe you already have 4K in your phone and you were just starting out and you don't have a high budget. I would stick with buying lighting and buying a better computer to edit all that footage. But if you have that budget, but you also want to use a professional camera, then I would also just get a camera, get a computer, get lighting, and stick with 1080p until you can upgrade your hardware or maybe something else. Everyone has a different situation money-wise and where they're at and what you want to learn. Also, sometimes you're just limited with what you have, like I just mentioned. So be creative that way. Use your time to record versus well, stressing out on 4K or 1080p. But if you want to see the gear I used to make this video, go ahead and check the links down in the description below. They're gonna be at no extra cost to you guys, just gonna be helpful to the channel, and we'll be able to make more videos. So there's that. Also, if you want more content like this, go ahead and like and subscribe. Check out this playlist right up here, and also don't forget to dream on.